Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, I'm reading the second book of Margaret Atwood's The Testaments, and there was a section in there where a woman chose to have a child via Sperm-bank. And in the text it says, basically it was saying, many women at that time chose single motherhood via sperm banks. And this got me to thinking how there was a time where I almost thought that would be a viable solution. Because you would just cut out the man and then have your child, and as long as you had money, everything was fine. And then I started thinking about how absurd that actually is. Because feminists promote sperm banks as a solution to not getting married, that you can still have children, just use a sperm bank, because they can't find a guy who will fit their standards. But then I thought about how you don't really know the man, and there's this sort of anonymous nature that's kind of mysterious, and since you don't have a face put to it, you seem to be more accepting. I realize that it's quite foolish to want to continue the bloodline of a man who doesn't love you. A sperm bank donor is like a guy, you have no attachment to him whatsoever, and the child is denied knowing who their father is. I'm not sure if sperm banks have a secret vault and you can find out somehow, but guys who go and donate their sperm, I doubt many of them are looking to be fathers to all those children. I do recall one news story where a man had fathered hundreds of children, and it was a scandal, because that's a problem when you don't keep track of the progeny and such like that. But it's really twisted when you think about it, because you're admitting that you rather have a random guy's sperm who meets these things on paper, and you don't actually want the connection, and that you think your child will not be they won't long for a father. It's quite bizarre, isn't it? I mean, there's gotta be somebody out there who will want to be with you. I think it also has like a testament of how disgusted some women can become with men. But yet those same women who will say, use a sperm bank, if you tell them we shouldn't have adult content anymore because it makes men worse and we should punish them, they would say like, no, women are empowered by creating such content. Yet when women are pregnant, they catch their men. Remember, there was some Reddit forums where people were sharing screenshots, because I'm not a member of Reddit, but where pregnant women were complaining that their husbands were just perving out online, watching a bunch of garbage, and it's affected their relationship. And feminists took that and they said, look, 101 reasons not to get married. Marriage is a bad deal for women. You don't need a man in order to have a family. And so I find this puzzling, that the feminist praises the woman who creates content that hurts other women, and then they use that as an angle to shame men. And then this makes the victims nihilistic and cynical, and now they want to use a sperm bank. But the same degenerate could be who could be consuming that content is now donating sperm, and you're propelling his genes. It's not a natural order of things, because if you look at how when you meet someone, you smell them, you see how their mannerisms, there's something quite unique about it. You might not like each other, and then those who like each other, having a child, it's definitely something that feels spiritual, especially if a couple prays to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a pious child, and such, and makes the proper duos before intimacy. It's a very loving and romantic thing. But because relationships have been reduced to pure transactions, and there's not really a lot of people trying to really keep marriages together, I think that some cozy up to that idea of a sperm bank baby. I also think that women like myself who have bad fathers, you kind of lean towards that because your own father didn't do a great job, so you become a bit hopeless. I'm trying to think of my mindset at the time. Because if you examine the mindset, you can create more solutions. And it's strange that the women don't exactly know, from my understanding, what the guys look like. Maybe they have some clinics where you get to see what the guy looks like, his profile, how much money he makes. But it's still strange that you'd want to get pregnant and then not have the support of the male energy around you, which is so healing. It's almost like they'd rather keep the pain away and not have the risk. Ignoring how they'll then say, well, I'm a single mom, so I deserve all these handouts and I deserve all this sympathy, but you chose that life. If you choose that life and you see yourself as empowered because of it, you can't be a victim and empowered at the same time. And then it's a deeply selfish thing. Now, it's different if the relationship doesn't work and then you keep the baby. Something happens while you're pregnant, and then you decide, okay, we can't keep going in this relationship, and then you decide to keep the child. That's noble. But to deliberately get fertilized, knowing that that child won't have a dad, is quite cruel and selfish. Because you're thinking about yourself more than you're thinking about the child. And I wish there could be more studies just done. I know there's been quite a few about like crime rates, mental health problems amongst fatherless youths. But on the female side of not having a supportive man who loves you, not having the male energy. Because after you have a baby, you need a lot of help. And if you're going to be a single mom, you're going to pay a night nurse. You can have that kind of help because it's functional, but it's not the spiritual angle of you just honored this man with a baby. You know? You honored a stranger with your womb, which I think is more degrading, because surrogacy is a disgusting practice that should be outlawed because it hurts the child greatly and it reduces women to horrible standards, and it's quite cruel and wicked and demonic. A little baby is grown inside of a woman, gets to know their voice, moves inside her, she has a bond, and then she hands that baby over for money. The child doesn't get to breastfeed, doesn't get to snuggle on her chest, and then is whooshed away as some type of doll prop to wealthy couples who have a difficult time bonding with the child because they didn't have to suffer to grow the child, to get the child. They just had to pay the price. It's like buying a slave. It's literally disgusting. So sperm banks shouldn't be allowed, and surrogacy shouldn't be allowed. It's not a functional way to create families. Polygamy will help the infertile to be married, and it allows single moms to marry again if the man will prove to be a good stepfather and her a good stepmother. But to tell college girls, fornicate, live it up, make your cash, and then get a sperm bank baby, and then hand it off to a nanny That's just pretty wicked when you think about it. And I know that there's some who say aristocrats would hand their children off to be privately tutored by excellent academics and whatnot. But then if you look at the psychopaths that were in their aristocratic society, and how cruel some leaders became, and how treacherous the upper echelon can be, just as the bottom barrels of society, you begin to see that money doesn't actually protect you the way you think it does. Status is always a viper's den. And there's always someone who wants to climb on top of your head to get to the higher tier in the pyramid. And there's always someone nibbling at your toes and ankle biting that wants to pull you down and slice that Achilles tendon so that they can just have the blue sky above them and look down upon everyone else. So even your status as the hegemonic capstone in the system and the hierarchy isn't preserved. There's always someone buying. So money doesn't actually secure your child a proper childhood in all circumstances. And so to reduce pregnancy to just give me some sperm, it takes away the humanness of it. I think it's way more productive to teach young women that choosing a man to get pregnant by is one of the most important decisions of your life. And that intimacy should be shared with those who value you, and it shouldn't be cheapened, but it is cheapened because of liberals, because of secular liberal atheists, because of their sexual revolution, their decadence, their hedonism, and their consistent indulgence in what harms the human mind, which is intoxicants and endless pleasure seeking. And they don't think you can overdose on licentiousness. It's like they're all these mini Neros in the making when you look at it. Extravagant pageantry, decadent, ostentatious, just really gluttons of many cuisines, of many appetites. Never stopping the search of satiating their desires. And so, because of them, I'd argue that the surrogacy and sperm baby phenomenon is taking more hold. And it's splitting men and women so far apart that the children don't get to have that wonderful opportunity of seeing a happy mother and a happy father, or at least a cooperative household. You would think we would take relationships more seriously. It's kind of odd that we have started to, as a culture in America, just leave it up to everybody, and it's kind of hush-hush. Like, they'll talk about the rainbow flag and how you can be a furrykin and you can be non-binary and stuff that is useless garbage, prattle. But they won't talk to students about marriage. Neither from a secular point, a societal point of like cultural phenomenons across the world, nor from a religious point. It's really odd because marriage affects a nation. It affects every single human being. And the lack of marriage increases more bastards and fatherless home, broken homes. A lot of those funnel bodies into the gang culture, into the cartel culture. Broken individuals without a proper mother and father seeking to have some type of archetype they can cling to in order to make sense of the world, in order to have a moral compass. It's strange how much America has buried the idea of the family, the idea of marriage, and has framed children as a burden, husbands as emotional labor, and as wives as nagging wenches. I don't think that America should allow sperm banks. I think that it would be better for the nation to focus on the family unit, to legalize polygamy, ban surrogacy, and ban sperm banks. The fact a woman can go to a sperm bank, but a man can't have 4 wives, but he can have unlimited hookups with escorts, is quite troubling. A woman can have unlimited abortions, but a man can't have multiple wives. That's very strange. Very strange. So, it could be important to have a conversation with your daughters about how surrogacy, IVF, and sperm banks are not really the greatest options for people, and that you should maximize your fertility in your 20s. And that you can always seek knowledge after you have children. What's fascinating is my eldest's new teacher is 25. She already has 2 kids, and she's teaching in a public school. And I was very surprised by that. Very surprised. 25, already got 2 kids, pretty cool, and has a teaching job. So, there are women out there who are waking up and realizing that going in the classrooms of 12th graders and telling them to take on massive high-interest loans in order to make it in the world, that's the only way they'll have value, is not really accurate. It's not really helpful. That there are some girls who should be told it's okay to want to be a mother, and here's how your body actually works. Here's how you can preserve your marriage. Here's why you should want to preserve your marriage. And then give the children an option to study it from which angle, from which religious angle or whatnot. I'm talking about public schools. Obviously, if you have an Islamic school, I think it would be important to include that in the curriculum. It's fascinating. The more you see the faults of American culture and how it's not really talked about that much. What do you think? Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to join my blog and see about other things that I write, you can go to www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. I hope to see you there.